Well, this is Dr. Lemmon, and welcome to the December chat. So this year, I've been looking at the structure that I put together for teaching. Yes, it's long history. I retired a long time ago, but just putting the matrix together and explaining to an awful lot of people that have asked me questions like, why did we do this? Why did we do that? What? So this is the last talk on teaching. Next year, I will do something totally different. I have no idea what yet, but something else will unfold for next year. The blogs this year were about building range, and so I kind of tied these in the past with my talks with the blogs, and this year there's not a whole lot to say about range. Most of it is just being patient and let something new materialize. Paying attention is what range is all about. So repeating myself 12 times didn't make a whole lot of sense. I know these talks get a little long-winded. So the goal was to get people to reach potential. And what we recognize is that most of the time when people have to do something, even if it's important to save their life, 90% of people won't do it. It's just kind of amazing. This whole matrix, the body, all the programming, everything in there is all defensive. And people just don't understand that. So if this is all meant to defend yourself, in other words, don't take risk. It's meant to be a caution, right? And that's how it's designed. So potential is always a risk. So it's an oxymoron. So for you to be able to do that, to be able to accomplish something, to get out of what was presented, here you are as a package, what moving forward you can do, you had to be able to get a motivation to take that type of a risk. All right. Humans started doing that by telling stories. Yes, all the way back to the hunter-gatherers days. They'd get around the campfire and they'd tell stories about the great hunt and how they did this, that, and the other, or whatever, right? Or bragged about how many kids they have, or we still hear stories over and over and over again. What we found is that stories put us in it. Literally, our eyes are in our head. We don't see us. So if I'm out hunting a deer, I don't see me hunting the deer. I see the deer, I take aim, but I don't see me doing it. So I tell the story that puts me into it. That makes me the risk taker. So that qualifies or moves me past this defense system that says, don't take a risk, be careful now, you could get hurt here. All those are true, but potential is going to come with a risk. You're going to have to invest in something. You're going to have to take a risk. So that's where potential comes in. All right. It's counter without a doubt. So by having people start to learn a little bit about the feeling in their body when energy moves, when they start to process something, when they start to imagine something, and how they can plot those imaginations into a bigger range so they can build a pattern, or they can build a template, or they can build a design, or they can build a mapping so that they can launch forward, so that they're secure to some relative degree in the risk taking. They've talked themselves into taking the chance rather than have a salesman talk you into it. We've talked ourselves into taking the chance, and then we launch it. We have then the plan rather than someone else's plan, which usually is not a big gain for us. So that's what it's all designed about. There is some risks. So therefore, what I found was that it wasn't that the risk takers who come out accomplishing goals have so much of a health challenge. It's the people that are defensive, entertain the idea of taking a risk and don't take the risk. Their defensiveness pulls their whole field in, pulls it down, and creates a huge amount of pressure, like putting a blanket over you. Yes, it may reduce your anxiety, but it also reduces your performance. You cannot function. And so a lot of illness comes out of it in all levels and all grades of illness. What I found is that everybody I've ever worked with in my life that had emotional problems pretty much had health problems too, except for a few people I talked to in the prison system that, were killers. And, they didn't seem to have uh, they didn't seem to have much interest in life at all, but they were pretty much ego-centered, but very deceptive. But they seemed to be somewhat healthy. Most all the rest of them had problems. So health became an issue. As I started teaching classes after a few years, why I was referring people to naturopaths, to doctors, to chiropractors, to people in the area. Those people also had come in, they'd taken classes. I got to know them. They became a resource. I used to have a list of people to go to. People would come in and say, yeah, I've got this pain, I've got this ache. I'm discovering things that I didn't know about me. And in that process, all of a sudden I got aches and pains. Well, once you get past the boundary that holds you in, that locks you in place, then you break out of that boundary. Yes, you start to use muscles, you start to use brains, you start to go past that limit. It's a little intimidating, absolutely, without a doubt. So we put together a program back in the beginning. Rather than me try to do the whole thing, I got a group of people together. I had some naturopathic doctors, some some doctors, some psychologists. I had some religious people, some natural, some herbal people is what I'm trying to think of. I had a whole bunch of people. I had a lady that was heading up the committee that was a religious science practitioner. So she put a lot of emphasis on being able to have a positive statement in prayer. Yeah, all those things are an influence. Don't discount any of them. So we don't want to have a focus on one. We want to be able to have a wide range. So I put together a program, and I taught that for a while, quite a few years. It's about a year-long program. They got introduced to all these techniques and modeling that other people did. And then we would have someone demonstrate, and then we would then experiment with ourselves as if we're the practitioner, just pretending, so that we could start to get a sense of that flow, so we could feel it in our body, so we could start to be able to have a better relationship with the challenges that are going on, rather than just expecting someone else to tell us what to do and how to do it. So it's an empowerment act. Somewhere in that process, why I had some people come to me and said, why don't we put a program that we could just put out there for the public? I wasn't particularly in favor of that, but then at first, because I know what a challenge it is to get people to change. In other words, if they got a health challenge, then they don't realize that they're defending themselves. The health challenge a lot of times is a product of defending themselves. Yeah, sometimes people fall down, they get hurt, they get colds. But I'm just making a big generalization. A lot of people come in, they've had a continuing problem for a long period of time, and a lot of those come out of defensive modes, right? So I was looking and I thought, well, I don't know if we could put together a program with 12 or 14 meetings that would be of anything of value. And so we started talking about it. We started brainstorming it. And then I finally had a lovely lady that came along, and she said, she was in the insurance business, and she said, I could probably put it up to where we could teach it in some places. And so I could coordinate it into an activity for. So we're starting to think, well, this might be doable. We can see the potential of it. So then I started putting together a program with the rest of the people helping me. Different people had read different books. They came in, we sat down with a bunch of books. We took ideas together. We extracted what we could. We put key points together, and I put together a program that originally I was going to call Wellness Procedures. Someone in there that had been a nurse for quite a while said, no, it really needs to be something more intense than a procedure. People don't do procedures. She said, I know, I've been a nurse, but procedures we fail on sometimes. It's got to be something more intense. And so somebody in there that had been an ex-Marine said, it's got to be a code. And I'm going like, okay, that sounds good. Let's make it a code. It feels like it's rule or law. So it feels like it has authority. So we entitled it Wellness Code. And we put together this program, which I have a website out there called wellnesscode.org. And so you most certainly can look at that. I'll be doing some work on that and updating it. We put this together quite a few years ago. We went out. We had a whole bunch of people that were interested and were going to show up, and I was going to teach some facilitators. And so this lady went to great expense and great trouble to put it all together. and the people at the last minute all started dropping out. So literally, I was pulling students of mine in to fill the slots that we had rented the space. We had the building, we had all the class material together. And so of all the people that we had originally coming in, I think one actually made it, one or two. And everyone else I filled in with people I knew that were interested, but weren't actually going to probably. I mean, there was a potential they might have facilitated, they might have gone out something, they had the skill set to do it. It was worthwhile. So we put together and we taught it. And some of them went out and utilized it a little bit. The resistance is huge to get someone to be able to take a risk or to be able to entertain that, to be able to say, I need to do something. I mean, how many people overweight don't go work out? How many people, it's amazing to me. And it's amazing, I'm sure, to all you listening to this. It's like, yeah, I got a list of things I need to do, right? And to be healthier. And I try to be healthier. People look at me at 80 and say, you're pretty healthy for 80. I say, yeah, I don't have any diseases. I don't have any particular sicknesses. I, got some injuries down through the years, but nothing that's debilitating. So it looks like, this is pretty good. I'm just here inspired now to, like, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but it's like, I'm most certainly trying to build up more momentum to do more healthy things, a lot more hiking than what I've been doing. We got a lot of seasonal hiking in, my wife and I, but I've got friends that, that hike 15, 18 miles a week, and that's really an amazing piece, I believe. And so I would like to do a lot more than that. And I have not been on my bike for a couple of years now. COVID came and then things slowed down a little bit for a lot of people. And I realized that. And it was nice being out there hiking during that time because there wasn't very many people. But then it was so weird when you would bump into someone on the trail. It was like there was this little paranoia. It's like that would go on that people would have. I'd see them run away or get back, or it's so bizarre. So what I'm saying is that we needed some type of a program that would encourage people. We needed some procedures, some codes, some steps that we could go through to get there. We do better if we have some steps to take. If it's put together in a teaching program where they can actually do it and show up once a week, then it's a motivation for them as a group of people to come together and do that. That support mechanism most certainly is ideal to have there. I never really got that off the ground. I did most certainly then eventually, because when COVID came, I had to kind of quit doing lectures. I did a lot of lectures for quite a few years, and I quit doing lectures in person and had to play around with this silly box and this camera and do talks. Not my forte. I usually play on interaction with people and the energy in a room. When I'm sitting looking at this, I just got, an electronic device in front of me. It's very, very different in communication, which I base myself on the feedback that I get from people to understand if they got the point or not. When I'm putting out things, I could just talk forever because I got billions of examples, but I don't have any feedback references. So these tend to get a little long because I'm sitting there trying to imagine what someone's response is. I don't get the feedback information, which is why I like personal meetings, and I still like a group dynamic. And I'm not quite used to the talks. As a matter of fact, the talks seem to lose a lot of momentum when I listen to other people's lectures and talks. They're more a data conversation, blah, 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 data, right? And less of what's it. So it's either data or it's, once again, an expansion of this device, caution and defense. So we have all these people that are defensive. Oh my goodness, conspiracy people or whatever. They're just simply projecting this defensiveness out into their talk. There are threats and a new potential. There are threats in change always, right? Not a problem. So I put together this program, and like I said, we did the program. I went ahead and did it on a video series and got around 40 people involved, and we did a video sequence from it. And hoping that somebody would do something with it. And I put that out available saying, hey, if you guys want to play with this, I can give you the material. We can go out and do something. I don't think anybody actually really did. Like I said, once again, we got the alarm bells went off and we were thrown into a extreme cautionary period of time, which all of a sudden really puts a lid on potential. As a matter of fact, it was very devastating to a lot of people's dreams and visions and potentials, as we all know. And so that unfolded in that perspective way. So that is a total separate website that I do have out there. I have not done much with it in the last couple of years just because I've been trying to move into a different direction. What you'll see coming up on that website sometime this year, back I think in 2017, somewhere back in there, I did a talk on surviving the cultural change. So I had to start this. I have a group of people in town that live in my area. They come over here every now and then. We do lunch and I do a talk and we ask questions and we play out ideas. And so I played out some ideas with them and some concepts. We were sitting looking at what we thought the evolutionary change would be like, right? And we know that traditionally evolution occurs on a regular basis, kind of like a clock. It tick, 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 it changes, change occurs, right? It's kind of a long-winded story explaining how change has to occur, how complexity has to come into the piece, but that is the developing nature of it, right? If you don't have much income, you live in a very simple environment. If all of a sudden you win the lottery and you get $1 million, you're going to get a fancier car and fancier house and fancier. You add complexity to it as you develop in a direction of potential. It's not just stuff, but what you imagine, the ideas you have, the investments that you're going to make in the future, the things that you get more complex. There's more diversity. There's more paperwork you're going to have to do. There are a whole new range of friends that you have to do. I can remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was we were in the same circle group. We were all doing hypnotherapy eons ago in Sacramento, and he was really very good. And the two of us were friends. We had lunch a lot, and he was putting on some events. And so finally, I had talked to him, and he said, "I'm going to quit doing this and do something different." And I said, "Oh, wow." And I said, "I'm telling you because I thought maybe you might want to do these house events that we were doing." And he said, "But, I'm getting tired of doing all the work, putting it all together for people, and they show up and they don't do anything. We present them with stuff and they don't do anything with it." And I saw him just get very disenfranchised by it. And I thought, wow, okay, I've got to remember as I move forward, not to expect that people are really going to take this and run with it. But that's not my job. My job is not to inspire them. My job is to inform. I'm just giving you some ideas and some information. You're on your own. You go do it. Trying to motivate people and get them into a drive is really tough. To do that, I've got to start telling stories. I have done that over and over again. You tell stories, and all of a sudden they start thinking I am mystical, magical, or whatever. I'm not mystical or magical. I just simply like to take risks. I just simply like to move in potential. I look at everything as a challenge and I want to play with it. I want to go see what I can squeeze out of it. So that's what I do. And then I see people that want to do some of the things they hear in my stories, and they think that there's some piece, a little magic piece that they can put in there to make it all work. I never really saw it that way. It just meant that I just put more hours in, put more time in, practice more. It pretty much pay more attention. It takes a huge amount of attention. You don't see the details. You miss it all until you paid attention long enough to where you start to find the details. All right. Just like when you get sick, oh, I'm not feeling good. So then you think, I'll go see a doctor or a naturopath or somebody who has experience. Yes, they can look at you and they might be able to identify it in a few seconds, but they're identifying in a category. they're identifying the outpicturing, but they're not identifying how you got there and how you can back out of it and how you can avoid it the next time. For that, you're going to have to really pay a lot more attention. They don't have the time or the interest to pay attention. They don't want to sit there and spend hours talking to you, finding out how you got a rash all of a sudden and can't seem to get rid of it for a couple of years, right? I know a lot of people with rashes they haven't been able to get rid of for a couple of years. The question is, how did you get it? Can you go back to that pattern of how you created it? If they're giving things for the rash and it should go away and it doesn't go away, then we have to come back to you. What are you doing that made that happen, right? Right? Or what came into your world? What influenced your world? What crossed your path? What risk did you take that backfired on you? So you really got to go back in. You got to take a look at that, and you got to kind of circle out of it. And yes, I had an awful lot of people. We've successfully sat down and done this, and they got amazing healings. They have come out of it. I'm talking to a guy right now that 30 years ago I worked on him. He just got healthy, and he just did fine for 30 years. And now all of a sudden, there's a crisis that showed up in his life, and he's back into that same scenario. This time he'll get out of it a lot sooner. It took us about 6 months first time. Well, probably more closer to a year because I had a lot of other people involved in it. But those are the elements that start to come into play. So I put together a wellness class. It was very long. It involved a lot of professionals coming in, doing demonstrations, and then students playing off the information they got from the professionals. Not to be able to compete with the professionals, but to be able to understand what they're looking at and what their procedures are doing, so that when you're working with someone, you could say, I know what your problem is, and I know the person to send you to. And when you go see them, I will meet with you and support the healing process so that you do everything you're supposed to do to get past this. That was the whole idea. It was a support element. And the medical people, the doctors and everyone else that came along were totally like, yeah, we need that system without a doubt. So it worked out really good. The Wellness Code was a shorter program, simply introducing ideas and present it, okay? And like I said, this year, come January, when things slow down a little bit for me, I can't do as much work outside right now. I'm in the midst of remodeling my front porch. So I got as far as I could, and then the temperature dropped down to, it's about 25 at nighttime. So it's a little bit hard to paint when the temperature doesn't get above 50 degrees. So I wound up refinishing elements in my garage where the temperature is a little bit warmer. And then when it gets a little drier and a little warmer, I'll go out and reassemble it again. So January, February, usually it gets a little colder, a little more rain. And so the stuff will be sitting in my garage probably until maybe March. Anyway, not a problem. So I'll have a little bit of downtime. I'll be working on that website. I'm just giving you kind of a general focus. I'm trying to wrap this up for a year. If you look back and you were to spend, oh my God, just like 12 hours watching all these videos for the year, you could start to be able to get an answer of what motivated me, what characteristics, what things I thought were important that people had to look at, right? I do have some academic educational background in this, and I do have years of experience working with people. Some of the people had come to me because they had a healing crisis or some type of a health crisis. Others had come to me and simply were trying to get a different job position. So I did a lot of things with HR. I did a lot of things with route development. I did a lot of things in training salespeople. So these are people that were looking to be able to step up to potential. I had people that would come to me and they were making back then $200 a week, and I would take them out on a sales place, and we would work together, and they would only be making $700 to $800 a week. And they're looking at me and they said, I think this is too good to be true. And they would work with me for a couple of weeks and they say, well, I like the idea of making more money, but my wife said, this will probably all fall apart. So I'm going to stay with my $200 job. And it's like, wow, that was kind of interesting. So I've always been up against a religious obstacle. I'm religious. I don't mean a religion. I'm not anti-religion, but I'm saying that hard-nosed, like this is the way it's got to be or else, this dogmatic traditional piece. And it's like, it's hard to believe in something. Would he have to put a little more time in? Probably he would have to put a little more time in. He's working for himself. He could put more time in if you develop more sales and marketing, most certainly. But I have found someone else to take that position, and they most certainly were making $800 a week from that day forward and build it from there. And so if he would have come back a year later and said, show me, I could have actually done all that, but there was no reason for me to be able to do that. So I did. So just trying to give you kind of a scope or a view. It's like, yes, are there people out there teaching classes? Are there things going on? Yeah. I would recommend that you get someone out there that's not like all of a sudden the most amazing person in the world, and you got to learn to be them, because that's probably not going to happen. But you want to find someone that have some skill sets, but you want to find someone that have some skill sets. In other words, don't look at the teachers, look at the students. If you start to see that the students have got their act together, you talk to the students, that the relationship becomes the element of the students communicating with each other. If you see that the students are starting to get the idea, that they're starting to realize some sense of potential. I have students now that I've talked to that I have known in classes from 35 years ago, and they've got themselves in a little bind, and now I'm working with them to get them out of situations. And it's really, really interesting, because it's occurring a lot faster than what it would normally do with an average person, because of the skill sets that they learn. All of a sudden, it's like they're recalling, like, wow, I forgot all my tools. I forgot. I know how this works. I can actually make this. I can influence this. I can make this happen. I'm starting to realize. And then they still realize how their range is narrowed down, and they got themselves in a relationship or in a box or in a business, and it's like there was nowhere to go. And then they got sick, and then they simply went under. And it's like bailing them out and getting them back into the world again with a little bit of counseling has been something that I'm trying to get out of doing. I'm at this point, I'm still trying to retire, but I unfortunately know an awful lot of people. So when people call up and they're an old friend, and I wind up talking with them. So Wellness Code is the idea that we put out. No, we did not put it into a book. There's like, how many books out there? Come on, I read 50 books a year. So it's kind of like I'm looking at, I think there's like a new book every 90 minutes or something. It's like, it's just totally crazy. So yes, we did not put it into a book format. I did put it into a class, and I did make some workbooks. And so the people in the class got workbooks. I will put the class YouTube videos, the series, on Wellness Code next year, so that you'll be able, well, it's already on Wellness Code. So you can go there. The links are there. You can look at all the 12 videos and take a look at it. I do have some workbooks that I put together. And if somebody does that and wants a workbook, why, email me, chris@wizardscats.com. I will charge you a little something for the workbook, because I had to put bindings, print it, all that kind of stuff, maybe like $20, and send you a workbook so that you got one. Or you could ask me, and I could probably send you enough notes to make your own workbook if you wanted to. It's just sometimes pictures and directions, and there are some things that you write out and some procedures to kind of play for. So the workbook is kind of handy. And there's some books and references in the back, which is nice too, because if you get expanded in this and wanted to teach it, then you might want to go through and take a look at some of those books for a bigger picture, for a bigger range of all these things. All right. So this is December's talk. It's going to be a relatively short one compared to the longer ones. this year. Sorry about that. But this body gets strong as you move forward into potential and you have some realizations, right? Just like anything you do, you start to build a birdhouse and it comes out really good and you put it up and it's like, there it is, right? And so then the birds like it and you like it. Everybody's happy. So there's a reward piece. The same type of reward piece you get from telling a story that everybody's interested in. All of a sudden you feel like you're connected. But this requires that you be active, that you move, that you engage, that you experience the potential embodiment. And so that's what makes a difference. So it's not only that you have an idea that you're pretty good. There's a lot of people with egos, not just all in politics, but there's just a lot of people with egos. But if you start to realize accomplishment is that you have done something, you have some skill sets. There's a lot of people that feel they're accomplished, but you just look at their work and you go, wow, some of them are, and some of them are not, right? And so that's what you get to play into. You want to become one of those people that can get an idea, can imagine it, can plan it, can map it, can move forward, and can accomplish it. If it doesn't come out perfect the first time, you do it again, or you say, okay, that was good enough. I learned what I needed to learn. This wasn't any fun, so I don't want to do it again. I've had a lot of things like that. It's like, okay, I got it done, but wasn't any fun. It was difficult, really a pain. And to get fancy, I'd have to spend a lot of money on equipment. I don't want to do that. So there it goes. I used to be a diver. I enjoyed diving, but God, it's like, for whatever reason, I've never been motivated to go on a diving vacation. It'd be great if I could get my head around the fact of just getting on my gear, getting on a dive boat, going out someplace where the water's great, and just diving for a whole week and get that done. I just didn't appeal to me. I just like when I go on a vacation and there's water by there, I thought, well, I go on a vacation. One of the days I'm on vacation, I'll go diving. But what I found is everywhere I get where there's a vacation area and I go diving, the water is either not suitable or it's no clarity to it, or there's nothing in it, nothing to see. And so literally I got a duffel bag full of diving gear that I'm probably never going to use again. Those are the pieces of saying not everything that you drive into potential is going to inspire you and keep you engaged in it, right? Most certainly not. As a matter of fact, most everything that I've done in life, I really don't do very much. I do totally different stuff now. There are some things I have resurrected. I used to do stained glass windows. I've done some of them in my present house. People will say, would you make me a window? I said, I would have at one time, but I won't anymore. Too much time, price of glass is up. It's just too much. It's not worth the return. It's not, no, not worth it. So I'm not interested in doing it. And it requires a lot of setup. It was fun. I know how to do it. But did you get this? It's like, this is the element of wellness. Wellness is I have a relationship with it. It's not a threatening piece. I could do it. It's not a threatening piece. I have a relationship with it. I can make a decision about it, right? And when we get to a point where we can make decisions, it means the range is open enough to we can see all the variables and we make a decision, not a reaction to something. As you make decisions, then the body tends to be a lot healthier because the habit of making decisions means it's easier for you to make decisions about the food you eat. It's easier to make decisions about the exercise that you get, even the places you go on vacation to. I have gone to a lot of vacations in places where, the food is absolutely not very good because they have no refrigeration. So the food's not really well preserved. I spent a couple months in India. I spent a month in Morocco. I've been to a lot of places down through Mexico, down through South America, Central America, where, food tasted good, but most certainly was not in any way, shape, or form preserved. So I did fine. I stayed healthy, not a problem, but I prepared myself for it. I had it set up to where if somebody in my group got sick, we had some protocols to be able to walk them through that. And some people got a little sick for a day, and we managed to get them through that, whereas other people were having crises. And so it's just a question of being able to pay enough attention, take a look at all the variables, put some time into it, and you're going to find that you're going to have a healthy relationship. So you can look forward sometime in January. Right now, you can go to wellnesscode.com and you can take, or .org, and you can, and I think both of them are registered. You can take and go ahead and look at that. And in there somewhere, you'll see the links for the whole class. And you could spend, once again, a bunch of hours listening to me present different concepts and ideas. And you can play with that a little bit if you have a health challenge or just a health barrier. What do I need to do, right? And yeah, that's simple. It's like you have to take some action. You have to take some action. Don't go expect someone else to take action for you. You're going to have to take some action. You're going to have to do something no matter what. And so get your head around the fact that that is a potential for you. Your action gets you past the point of defense into the place of risk, into the place where you're now engaging to be able to secure potential for you. And that's what you did. There was a day we could go out on the prairie and build a house, and and it's just like, but none of them really lasted very long. Surviving out there was, they used to the government gave 160 acres of stolen land to anybody that would go out there and build a place. But managing 160 acres, the biggest problem that all of them had was there wasn't any water out there, or not enough water. The ones that got lucky were the ones that had a river going through their property and could keep the river and not lose it or get it diverted. So when you look at this, it's like paying attention and having more details and start to look at not just a concept and idea, but how you engage in it, how you attend to it, how you prepare yourself for it, what's the conditioning going into it. Makes a world of difference and allows you to come to fulfillment. I would say most certainly, without doubt, as you start to move in a direction of potential, pay attention to your body and to your health. If you're getting stronger and healthier as you move there, you're on the right path. If all of a sudden you're starting to move in a direction and you're noticing you're getting sick, you're getting tired, you're getting fatigued all the time, you're going to have to step back a little bit and pay attention, because there's something you're missing. You're pushing yourself rather than mapping yourself through something. And that is the big clue in all of this. All right. So I'm going to cut this one short. It is the end of the year. I've talked enough this year. I can't even begin to imagine to sit down somewhere later this year and listen to all of them. I might do that, but then again, I might not. If you have any questions, most certainly email me, chris@wizardscatch.com. Wizards Catch is the name of the channel right now. The YouTube's on. It's my website. I have blogs up there. Blogs all this year have been on range. Next year, it's going to be probably all about being able to take that next step. When you start to have range, we start to build questions, we start to build momentum. We're going to be able to next year probably talk about plotting out that range, being able to do something with it. It's kind of like that 160 acres that one time the government gave away for people who wanted to go out there and build a house on their property and get that land for free. The potential is there for free, kind of, but most certainly, like the free land, you have to do an awful lot of work, and you probably have to bring some resources. And if you want to stay there or be successful, you're going to bring a lot of resources and do a lot of work. And so your potential is going to be just exactly that. It might be easy work, it might be fun work, but if it's producing a health challenge in your body, you need to step back and see what you're missing. All right. And that's the keynote, and to be able to have a relationship with potential moving forward. So thank you very much for this year. It's been fun. it's fun because I do a lot of talking, so it's just normal for me. But it's been fun, and I've heard from a lot of different people. Some people like to talk. Some people thought they were too long. They were too long. And if they could, if I could have one person in front of me, I could then tailor a talk for one person. Then on what does it take? If I'm talking to someone and receive the information, come on, you guys know this. You receive the information, you can see the light go on, and you can go, wow, they get this. Okay, now we're done. Go with it. But when I'm talking to a ghost audience, it's like, wow. So I'm just throwing it all out there. So anyway, thank you very much, and thanks for your patience. And we will have another series come January, I'm sure. And I have no idea yet what that's going to be on, but we will see. Thank you.